Hello, everyone. My name is John Eldred Smith, and I've been writing poetry. Now, professional may not call it poetry because I'm not a professional. I'm an untaught poet, but I like to write poetry, and some of the people that read it, they kind of like it too. Here's a picture of the book that we now have my poetry in. It's called As Bold as a Lion. And the reason it's called As Bold as a Lion is because I put some poems in the book that probably shouldn't be in there, but I was bold and I put them in there anyway. The foreword of the book is written by Pastor Jerry Edmond of Coon Neck, Texas, and he says nothing reveals the soul of a man like his poetry. The depth of his heart is shown in the poetry he writes, from the intricate detail of his illustrations to the unique perspective of each of his characters. You get to watch him think. It's there. You see his thoughts truly unfold. It is in the parables, examples, and illustrations of poetry that you see the beauty of thought and the process of reason. No one does this better than John Smith. As I read his poems, I smile at the wit and humor of some of them, and at others I am drawn into thought and reflection. I must say that as much as I enjoy reading his poetry, nothing is better than listening to him quoted, with all the facial expression and the voice inflections to the belly laugh that he gives up at the conclusion. The riddle comes alive. God bless you, John Smith. You have brought a wonderful flavor to our lives, and I hope I do. I have been writing these poems for almost 30 years, and it's a collection. The book that I'm reading from is not a religious book. Nevertheless, it will, definitely cause the reader to look inward and ultimately Godward. You will read from front to back, you will note the underlying emphasis. As you enter these pages, I promise you a good time. When the last line has been read and the book put to rest, you will have been spiritually influenced. There are a few poems that are opaque. Personally, I like those kind. As a cow will chew on something over and over again, I can ruminate. A poem that is not so easily understood gives me the liberty to read between the lines. It's a challenge, a puzzle that needs to be solved. Admittedly, the romantic section of this poem has two or three poems that should never have been included. You will recognize them. I was as bold as a lion, however, and insisted they not be deleted. Although the subject matter is somewhat risque, I felt that most of my readers would be able to handle it. That is my hope, anyway. While I'm at it, let me apologize for one other poem. It can be found in the humor department under the title of Full Gospel Businessmen. At first, it was written for my own enjoyment. I laughed and I laughed. How dare me to write such a thing? I've had it hidden for 25 years. From time to time, I've come across it, and always I have to laugh. To think about it makes me do so. Now that it has been made public, it may lose some of its oomph. I don't know. Everything I've ever done can be classified under four headings: relevant and irrelevant, irreverent and irreverent, hopefully more relevant and reverent. The Bible contains many great chapters. Several of the best are found in the book of Romans. Everyone agrees that the 8th chapter is outstanding. The 12th chapter is also a favorite. The Apostle Paul was a very wise man. Read his admonition in chapter 12 and verse 3. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. This practical advice can be applied not only to ourselves, but to our abilities, accomplishments, possessions, and loved ones. We are proud. If we're not careful, we could develop an overwhelming opinion that borders on arrogance or haughtiness. To say the least, we are highly prejudiced at times. It begins with, my dad's stronger than your dad. And it ends with, those were the days. You are I'm convinced that your boy is the best on the team. Actually, he's just average. Your girl was the prettiest in the play. Others think differently. Your mom is the best cook in the world. But I thought mine was. The Apostle Paul would advise me not to think more highly of these poems than I ought to think. They aren't very professional. Literary critics will judge them disapprovingly. That's all right. These poems were created by someone untaught. No matter, through the years, the time spent with them was gratifying. Imagining how the average Joe might receive them, I merrily picked through them, gathering some for this book. Now I'll grab a hold of the bedpost or the nearest thing handy and hang on.